24 billion pages, approximately 500 million indexed. When most SEOs think in terms of hundreds of pages, today's guest thinks in batches of tens of thousands. So, welcome to Enterprise SEO at Scale. My guest today is Roberto Grasiano, who until recently was head of organic growth and SEO at Shutterstock, one of the world's largest visual content platforms. He was operating at a scale comparable to giants like Canva, Booking.com, and Etsy. With over 12 years of experience across high-scale platforms like Farfetch, Lyst, and now Shutterstock, Roberto brings a rare combination of technical depth and strategic thinking to the table. Roberto is now joining a UK-based startup called Lottie as his next chapter, which makes this the perfect time to extract everything he's learned managing SEO for a site with 24 billion pages and around 500 million indexed URLs. So before we dive in, Roberto, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you for the introduction. Really happy to talk to you today. And let's see if I can share some knowledge and help our fellow searchers around the world.
Yeah, I was already blown away by our 10-15 minutes get to know call we did a couple of weeks ago. You just casually dropped some things, so I think it will be a good talk for a lot of people. But let's start maybe by going back a couple of years because I'm always interested in how people got into SEO. So how did you end up in SEO?
It was sheer luck, I would say. I used to work in a very different area before SEO. And after some time, I decided that I needed a break. So I took a 6 months break when I was 24, 25 years old, and I didn't know what to do. So I did a very short PPC course at the time, 13 years ago. And then I got a job as a link builder in an SEO agency. And I didn't know what SEO was, and it started from there. So my first job was as a link builder.
Awesome. And how did you like it? Like link building? I mean, I think back in the day, like when was that? What year was it?
2012, I think, was when I started. How can I reply to that? I will say that very quickly I became a technical SEO. I think backlink and link building at the time was very impactful, but also something that I did not enjoy myself. So I fell in love with technical SEO shortly after.
Okay. I was just asking because I mean, link building somehow has this bad reputation, right? Of just, especially back in the day, spamming forums and like not always going for like high authority domains, but also taking every cheap link you can get.
Yeah,
So probably a good move you made.
yeah, it was fun at the beginning, but soon I realized that I like the code parting more, the back end and the challenges. But it was a great introduction to SEO because it allows me to understand SEO fully, not only one part of it, but be a generalist.
Got it. But I mean, there is tech SEO and there is tech SEO at the scale that I described already in the introduction. So I'm curious, what was it an active decision to move into this enterprise SEO environment with like the big sites I named in the introduction, or was it also by accident?
A bit of both. I guess technical SEO for smaller websites, they had a window of operation, right? You have only so much to do until the website is in a proper shape to scale from there. And then you move to content, to growth strategies, which at the time I wasn't very comfortable with. I really wanted to stay in technical SEO. So after a couple of years in technical SEO, I got an offer from Lyst, which was my first real huge marketplace. And when I took the chance, I knew that it would be a challenge, and I got hooked to the marketplace, to the scale, because you learn so much things that you don't know on smaller websites, right? When you talk about technical SEO for smaller websites, you're gonna start to think some canonicalization strategies, indexation, internal linking, page speeds, and so forth. But when you go to billions of pages in marketplace, everything becomes a bit more challenging and a bit more complex, which requires regular interactions or regular optimizations to achieve a compounding growth that we expect from SEO. So it was a bit of both. I was getting bored of these smaller websites, and then Lyst came in and I was like, oh, hell yeah, I think this is going to be interesting. So since Lyst, I tried to stay on enterprise sites.
I can imagine that a lot of people listening and viewing are familiar with List and like what they do, but can you just give a very short rundown of what List does and the scale they were at when you joined them back then, and like just in terms of maybe number of pages, in terms of the people working there, just whatever you feel is relevant.
Yep. It was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, so pardon my memory. But Lyst is a marketplace that works in an affiliate model. So it's a fashion platform, and we acquire users when the users click in a product, we redirect them to the seller. So it doesn't hold any stock of products. They try to focus on a luxury fashion side of things. So think of your Gucci's, your Pradas. And when I joined, I believe that they had around 400 million pages at the time, spent across different languages. So I think it was my first time that I joined a company, and I say like, "Oh yeah, how many pages do we have?" Like, "Oh, around 400 million." I was like, "Wait, I, are you sure you say the right number? It's not 400,000." No, 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 400 million. Like, okay, what am I gonna do here now? But yeah, it was my first impressions and shock on the size and scale of the operation.
But what did you do to like get familiar with the scale? Because I can imagine like for people that either work with smaller sites or work at a company that is smaller, and maybe this company is in the phase of scaling up, so there are always interesting business models where you have a lot of pages like in your index, or people that maybe transition from one job to the other, so basically doing the opposite way that you did, like not from Shutterstock to Lottie, but maybe the other way around. Like, what would you say to those? Like, how can you get familiar with this scale to not be completely overwhelmed?
Um, Google Search Console is your friend. I think is a very good starting point to start to understand how the website operates. And I know that a lot of people out there will say like, "Oh yeah, but we use Screaming Frog or Sitebulb or crawlers to understand." Unfortunately, for sites of this size, it's really rare to have a crawler that can actually give you a full picture. So you need to think on the templates and site structure mindset. So you start to understand how the folders work, how the site is distributed, how the categories work, and how the products are presented. And then you audit smaller portions of those templates. And when I say small, they're still not small. We're talking about 20, 30 million pages. But when you see the grand scheme of things, it's less than 10% of the site structure. So you pretty much have technical data for 10% of the domain, and you hope that what you do actually scales correctly to the remainder that you don't have visibility. So Google Search Console is your friend. And of course, if you have capacity, you build your own tools in-house. I think this is the best way that enterprise websites works, because we know our website, so we are the best ones to build actually the solutions.
Awesome. It sounds like the perfect like career progression. List, then Farfetch, obviously also luxury fashion. From my understanding, similar model to List. Then Shutterstock. I think everybody knows Shutterstock. Probably one of the most well-known like digital brands worldwide. But now you're making like a very interesting move, or you already made the move from Shutterstock to Lottie.
Yep.
From my understanding, a UK-based startup that helps people find the best care homes and retirement communities. Why the switch?
Um, Very good question. I guess I've been very deep in the corporation enterprise side of SEO, which is great when you are growing your career. You want to have more exposure to decision making, and when you want to become a leader or you want to become part of the leadership, and you want to make those decisions based on what you do. But after some time, I started to feel that I wanted to be closer to the action. And most importantly, I wanted to use my skills uh, in a mission driven company, in a mission driven project. Uh, I've been working with fashion and then media, which is, of course, really fun. I love working with fashion and e-commerces, something that I miss from time to time. But for me, it was time to look for something more meaningful uh, outside from only conversions and revenue, but also make a real impact in people's lives. And Lottie works in a very sensitive topic of every family. When you get to the part that a loved one needs caring and you can't cope anymore, it's really difficult conversation to have a moment to be. Lottie tries to make this easier by providing information, by providing assistance. Of course, it's still a business. Of course, we still need to generate revenue, but the core of the company is very mission driven. And for me, it was something that I really wanted. And also get my hands dirty again with SEO. I was in a very top level decision making process, which is fine. But when you start to have 6 hours per day in meetings just to, say yes or no or to help with something, you start, oh man, this is my life. This is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my existence. I don't want that. So yeah, moving to Lottie ticked a lot of boxes, and yeah, it will be fun. It's been fun so far, and I think it's going to continue to be fun, but is an adjustment. And I know that a lot of people will look into Lottie since I moved there. They're going to keep a close eye on it. So there's a lot of pressure to make it work, but we'll get there.
Cool. What will be your role, or what is your role at Lottie, and how can we like imagine your like? How does it look like if Roberto now gets his hands dirty again with SEO at Lottie?
Well, luckily enough, this time I'm going to be able to crawl a full website. It's been years since I did that. Um, and I guess Lottie is a marketplace. It's still continuing the marketplace, but it's a very small marketplace. So what you're gonna see is me working on the foundation of the website, how the website works and operates, how we present it back to Google and to users, and preparing the website to future expansion by meaning European expansion or US expansion or whatever the company decides to do. So my job is to make sure that the foundations are correct and that we have the correct growth mindset. How do we present the information to capture the user in a very stressful moment? We don't want to direct the user to a content that is not useful. So is looking to the entire journey from discovery to acquisition and to support. And what you're going to see is me deep diving in the care sector, talking about the carers that we have in house, talking about different people in the business, hopefully visiting some care homes to understand how it actually operates in the real life and really know their pain. And hopefully, this will help me to ease that pain in the moment with SEO and discoverability.
Super interesting. Now let's take a step back and look a little bit at your last tenure again, which was obviously at Shutterstock. Because so when we had our get to know call and you dropped this number of 24 billion pages, I think you remember I was a little bit shocked, like positively speaking. Since I have never managed a site at that scale, I can only imagine that it's probably like in the top 50 pages worldwide. So I can imagine probably an Amazon, maybe a booking.com, maybe like pages like that are at the same size. But can you give me and also people watching and listening that I would say 99% of them have probably also never seen an SEO operation at that scale from the insides? Um, what does it look like, or how does it feel like to manage SEO day to day on that scale?
Um, I don't know if I know how to describe it. I guess the shock that you had when I told you was the same shock that I had when I joined. Um, it took me a couple months to digest the project that I had in my hands when I joined Shutterstock. Not gonna say that it was, oh no, easy peasy. I got in and I knew what to do, where to go. I didn't. You really need to spend a lot of time looking into data points and different sources. And when I joined, Shutterstock was still, and this is fun to say, but it's still on this infancy on the SEO strategy. So you think like it's 20 years website. They've done SEO for the past 20 years, but it's usually not the reality for many of these companies. So when I joined, I helped to build the SEO foundation work, meaning how can we see the server log files at this scale? I mean, can you imagine how many bots are hitting Shutterstock every day? Um, can we have some type of visibility on the site structure? Uh, I mean, I believe at the time Shutterstock had around 250 million category pages. So how do you see this structure? How those pages are created? So it was 2 months of learning, sleepless night, I guess, thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow, how I'm going to see these data points. But I was fortunate enough to have an amazing team with me. Um, and when I got onboarded after 2 months, I felt a bit less scared. I'm not going to say the word that I used to my manager at the time, but I was very scared when I joined. And after 2 months, I was more confident that I knew what to do. You cannot crawl the websites, several reasons. So you rely a lot on log files to really understand, and you build your own log files analyzers. So we have amazing tools in the market, like I don't know, Botify, Jet Octopus, Conductor, but I don't think there's a company in the world at that side that has the budget to onboard these tools. So you learn to do everything by yourself. So my SQL skills are very top notch now. You can give me a Snowflake dashboard and I can query away. But that was my onboarding experience. I was also scared.
Crazy. The thing that I was really pondering is when you started thinking about optimizations and like how do I approach the different clusters. So for I would say regular SEO people, they think about, hey, okay, we have this category there, the category here, we maybe have these like 20 to 50 blog posts, and it's something that they can like still comprehend. So I will work on that. It will probably move the needle if done right. So, and I was thinking with 24 billion pages, approximately 500 million indexed. So if you think about 1,000 pages, like a cluster of 1,000 pages, it feels too small. If you think about 10,000 pages, it feels too small. Even if you think about 100,000 pages, it still feels too small. And if you're looking at 1 million pages, it's already less than 1% of whole index pages. So how did you approach, like, I mean, the log files and this, I think I get an idea of that. But if you then like try to go into some optimizations, like in terms of, okay, let's work on this category, let's work on that page type, what was a number of pages where you felt like, okay, this is not too small, this is okay to focus on?
Taxonomy is the key word that you're looking here. We worked tirelessly to create a comprehensive taxonomy of the website, meaning we wanted to decrease, it's not decrease, but we wanted to understand the site structure by having less data points. I know it's weird to hear, but I'm going to try to explain. So if we have 300 million category pages, for example, how do you categorize them in clusters? That is really difficult, right? So if you think about cars, you have hundreds and thousands of brands and types, etc., to understand. If you think about animals, thousands and millions of animals. So we really tried to create a very concise taxonomy that help us to map the website from homepage to top level categories, which is these very broad words: animals, cars, people, businesses, and so forth. And then from there, create the subcategories for those type of very broad words. So from animals, we go to felines, mammals, etc. For cars, sports cars, SUVs. So we had a very good data team that helped us to understand the data that we had in the back end, because when a contributor upload an image or a video to Shutterstock, we ask a lot of these questions. And then this help us to map in the back end this structure. So create a very interesting taxonomy. And from there, we had the number, right? So we knew, for example, that's not a real number, by the way, but it's just an example. We know that we have 100 million category pages from animals. And inside this, we have 10 million that are for felines. And inside this 10 million category pages, we have 30 million assets. And then we categorize them from A to Z. So we had this whole list, and when you want to do a test, for example, a canonicalization strategy for pagination, we would divide the control and testing by alphabet. So we're going to say we're going to test canonicalization from a category starting from A to C, and then we're going to measure against D, E, and F and see how it works. So it was never granular to a page level, but we had enough data to move the needle at least a bit to make the decisions. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I think maybe let's try to dissect it a little bit more. So, are you saying that at this scale, basically all SEO work, or like 95% of SEO work, is on this structural level, like thinking about how to categorize your inventory, like in terms of taxonomy, categories, types, attributes, etc.?
Yes, is the first step to understand what to do next. So let's say that we want to introduce a new internal link component in a page that has a specific algorithm that we worked on. We use this structure to identify the pages that we want to test and to measure the impact. It was very controlled because we knew exactly what pages, not in the granular level, so not every URL, but what category of pages and what type of pages we were testing, and we could measure internally. So you start granularly, like, okay, I want to introduce internal links. I have this new algorithm idea, and I want to do that. So you start in the base, and then you start to think, okay, where I want to test this. So you go a level on the subcategory level, And then, okay, I want to test this, but against what? So you have this whole taxonomy on the flat line that you can really say, okay, I'm going to test in the subcategory for felines against the subcategory for sports car. So we had this level of data. Now, is not impossible. Impossible is not a real word for SEO. It's really hard to make a test in 1 page or 10 pages because you don't know when or if Google will ever crawl that page. You can force it by going to Google Search Console and ask Google to index that page or to reindex that page. But you don't know when it's going to come back. So it's really difficult to control very granular tests. That's why usually a test for us at Shutterstock, it was in millions of pages or so. Because then we had a chance in a bucket to Google to actually see the changes at scale and provide us the results. I hope that answers the question as well.
Yeah, makes total sense. And if we think about like traffic, how
Yep.
can I imagine this based on the distribution of pages? So is there like a very, very small amount of pages that bring in like 10% of the total traffic, but then 90% of the traffic is a sheerly endless long tail, or is the distribution like more even?
Is more even.
Mm-hmm.
Is more even. I don't know if I can go too much on details here,
Of
but
course.
the distribution is even, which is surprising on the website of the size because you expect to have like the famous 20/80. So 20%
Mm.
bring all the revenue and the 80 is just noise. But no, is even, which is good. That gave us a lot of room for testing and improvements, right? We could test it in different parts of the website. We can test in different formats. So yeah, it's not focused in only one. One thing that I would like to add, though, which is interesting, it's been happening for years, and it's not only related to Shutterstock. I think all marketplaces have seen this. Is the Google shifting the priority of marketplaces from PDPs, so individual pages, to category pages. I think that happens across the board in all the marketplaces that I worked on. Google give more visibility to category pages because Google itself is becoming a category page depending on what you're looking for. So it is a really interesting move from Google that has been happening for the past few years. And for Shutterstock was kind of the same. For Farfetch and for Lyst, kind of the same. Like category pages are always more visible than PDPs, which for us SEOs that report against revenue is always more difficult. Conversion rates on PDPs are way higher than category pages, of course. But Google don't like SEO too much, so they don't want to show our products directly to the user. They want to make it harder for them.
Got it. And do you think this is also valid for smaller pages, or is the whole shift from PDP to category pages primarily valid for pages of the size of Lyst, Farfetch, Shutterstock? So if for example, smaller e-commerce owner or e-commerce team is listening, so smaller, let's say they might even have like 100K pages in their index, is it also true for them? So should they focus more on category pages than PDPs?
Um, look into your data is the best answer that I can give.
Mm.
I know for the marketplaces is a very clear move from Google trying to expose the PDPs in their own SERP enhancements like carousels on top of the SERP, etc., and removing the visibility for the marketplaces because Google actually trying to compete with Amazon in a sense, like creating a marketplace inside the SERP. So for us SEOs at the product level, we had to set up the merchant center to be available to show products in the carousel. But when you go looking for specific keywords like, I don't know, Gucci black dresses, you will more often find category pages ranking organically and the products that are ranking on the SERP are usually paid. And it's more or less the shift that we've seen is rarely we would see our organic PDP page ranking for a very broad keyword, like Gucci dresses and so forth. For smaller websites, look into your data. I would say personally that probably category pages have more visibility, but they have worse CTR or conversion rate, which I think is the norm now. And then with the rise of the AI modes and how people are changing the behavior of search, clicks are becoming less and less and more rare. So try to improve your conversion rate on the category pages is a very smart move.
Hmm. And did you ever engage in editorial SEO at Shutterstock? Because I mean, if you look at some, for example, also pretty successful B2B SaaS startups, for example, editorial SEO has been a key growth driver for them over the last years. So some of them are now obviously struggling with AI search, but depending on how they structure their playbook, they might even be benefiting from AI search. But so did Shutterstock ever publish a classic, so to say, blog post?
Yeah, yeah. The Shutterstock does have a blog, and it does have an editorial lead that handles the blog and handles special landing pages that we created along my tenure there. I myself, I am not a big fan of editorial SEO. Not because I don't think it's useful. I think is really important for the SEO growth, organic growth, and winnings. Editorial SEO. I'm just not very good at it.
Mm,
So I try to, let the people that know editorial
mm,
SEO better than me to take the lead. I can help with the technical side, with the strategy, but the execution of editorial is not something that I did in my career. As you can see for our chat, I'm way more technical.
mm.
So editorial SEO is not my cup of tea.
Okay, got it. So you are personal as Roberto, you are not a fan, but you see the value in the bigger SEO picture for a company.
Yes, I think it's crucial to have content that is not optimized for bots. That's the catch. I
Mm,
think with the AI rise in the past few months or years, everyone started to do listicles.
mm,
So any content that you read right now online is on bullet points. It's just infuriating, because you see that they are trying to optimize for bots, for LLMs, because they want to have more visibility. But we've learned along the years that content should be made for humans. And if they're good enough, they will show to the people that actually need them. Uh, but I am a very white hat SEO. So probably someone that listens to this that is more in the gray area or maybe a bit blackish is like, oh, this guy, oh no. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I can
mm,
assure you that I have my own personal websites that I do the dodgy things to test it. And they do work for a couple months, they didn't die. But when you have so much responsibility in your hands for companies like Farfetch, Shutterstock, now Lottie, you don't have the luxury to try quick wins and
mm,
levers.
mm,
And I think everyone that is listening here, thinking about longevity and long-term thinking, content is made for humans. Everything that comes after this is a bonus. Of course, you want visibility, you want traffic, you want conversion, but bots don't convert. Actually, bots cost you a lot of money because they need to crawl your website, they need to use your resources to render page. So you're actually optimizing to spend money, which is counterintuitive, right?
mm. Makes
So
sense.
yeah, content is king, as they used to say, uh, but it needs to rule correctly. It's not only listicles to show on ChatGPT, is deeper than that.
Sure. Let's look a little bit at this intersection of tech and like marketplace SEO and editorial SEO, because I would like to get your point of view on people trying to enrich, for example, a category page with like additional editorial content. And there are obviously multiple ways to do it. There are the classic like e-com category page, and you just put like 2 paragraphs below the product, and then you feel like, wow, massive value add. How do you think about that? Did you, for example, enrich key category pages at Shutterstock with additional editorial content alongside the images or videos or whatever asset was presented there?
Yes, there are a couple of tricks that you can do to do that. I have a couple of examples that are really, really interesting. I'm not going to say the name of the companies that I did the test, but in one of them, we used to have content in the top of the page, of the category page, right? SEO content, which was behind the read more button or execution. So I was looking to the category page like, oh, this is a bit rubbish, right? I mean, when you open in a mobile and you click on load the page, is on a block of text, and then you see the product below, like it doesn't make any sense. So I suggested to move the content to below the fold to see what would happen. I mean, the theory is content at top of the page is more important. Google will like more. We moved to below the fold, and we saw like a 15% increase on organic traffic. I'm like, yeah, content is important, but again, you're optimizing for a human. So if you, Nicholas, are looking for a specific product and you go to a page, category page of a brand that you like, and you know there's a category page, and the first thing that you see is a block of text, you're not going to read it because you know already that you want that product. So what's the point of the content there? It's only for SEO purpose. So it doesn't need to be there. You can move below the fold because if the user has some questions, you have the content there and help Google to understand more context about it. Now, you don't need to directly inject content in a page to render the page. And this is not black hat SEO, guys, but you can leverage the data that you have from the PDPs to load on the category pages. So think about the headers, think about the description of the product, pricing, and so forward that can be loaded in the category page in the backend, rendered to bots or in your schema markup and how you range your schema markup. So this is also content which is not on page, but is content that help bots and search engines to understand the context of the page. And of course, the traditional create a content category page. It works. I did some tests in different companies that did not work. I tried some tests on AI content generated to see if it would bring more results, more index queries. It does bring, but then it lowers too much the impression count or the CTR or the. So it's tricky depending on the project, but people need to have in mind the user experience. Why you're putting the content there is actually helpful or is only for SEO. It can be both.
Makes sense. We already introduced this term of enterprise SEO and just juggle it around. And I'd like to quickly get your like definition, so to say, on where do you draw the line between just SEO or regular SEO and then enterprise SEO. So where does enterprise SEO start, and like what are the different things you would look at, and how would that then change like how you, for example, prioritize different actions and how you shift gears from maybe optimizing single pages or like badges of tenth of pages to things you already described in great detail with taxonomy thinking, more category driven thinking, etc.
Um, I think if take more than a week to crawl a website, you are enterprise. I guess that's the answer. But You will know when you are an enterprise website because you'll be scared. I don't think there is a proper number of pages that you can classify enterprise or not. Is how the company portray themselves as well. In a pure SEO number, I would say at least a couple million of pages is to the point that you cannot yourself physically investigate all pages one by one. But I don't think there is an exact number or exact threshold for enterprise. You can have 10 pages and be an enterprise website because I don't know, maybe you have billions of views in those 10 pages. Or you can have billions of pages and be tiny because you don't have visibility on anything. So it's something that if you are scared to join, you know that it's enterprise. You
Mm.
know, you're scared to look like, okay, how many pages? 10 million pages. Okay. Do you website? And someone replies to you, what is a crawler? And you're like, oh, yeah, okay, got it. I am on an enterprise mindset. But yeah, sorry, it's not a direct answer, but is the favorite answer from everyone. Like, it depends.
Yeah, so in a way, for example, ChatGPT.com is already probably enterprise SEO because they're getting, I don't know if they're already getting billions of clicks, but they are probably getting 2-digit to 3-digit millions of clicks in a month.
Yep.
And then they have like their GPT store and the custom GPTs that are like a couple of probably thousands of pages, but this is probably an example where you have to start thinking enterprisey, although
Yep.
you don't have like a million of pages yet.
Yes, that absolutely correct. And recently, OpenAI was hiring for an SEO content lead. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yep.
again, OpenAI is gonna kill the SEO job because the ChatGPT is hired for content SEO. So there is
Uh,
something poetic behind this, right?
Yes, this was a perfect transition that was not scripted, but you perfectly placed the ball on to do a penalty here, because I was interested in how AI, LLM driven search, and like everything around that has changed your strategy at Shutterstock, for example. Like especially after the inception of ChatGPT, late 2022. Um, just curious, how has this process looked like?
Uh, a very sensitive topic. I don't want to say anything that
Okay.
is very polemic, I guess. Um, I'm gonna give my own personal view, yeah. So I hope that I don't offend anyone. If someone for profound is seeing this, I apologize. Um, Nothing changes really. Um, LLMs, they are using SEO metrics to classify their content. They are fetching information from Google, from Bing, from any other search engine to train their data. There are several correlations between how ChatGPT rank some companies in a chat compared to a SERP result. Um, to be successful as of today, something may change tomorrow, but as of today, be successful with LLMs also means have a strong SEO program, have a strong SEO foundation, because SEOs have been doing this for years. How do we optimize for users? How do we optimize for crawlers? What is more successful? What is more useful? And LLMs are just capitalizing on years and years of work that we as an SEOs did. And they're just fetching our jobs or our results and showing in a different wrapper, in a different environment as Claude, ChatGPT, etc. So it's really, really difficult for me to pinpoint a unique view or strategy for LLMs as of today. Tomorrow, this can change, of course. And I think Lily Ray shared a very good example a couple of weeks ago of the first on her mind, and I agree, first AEO driven strategy that is actually something, which was the integration between OpenAI and Stripe or Shopify. So this is really a place that is unknown in terms of optimizations and is really focused in LLM optimizations, AEO, GEO. So it's a very good example of what this can look like moving forward. If you want to work in this space, if you believe this space is going to grow the way that Teams is going to grow, this is a very good starting point to understand the nuances of how will you optimize your Shopify store to show on ChatGPT, because they have this connection or this data agreement. Everything else is based on what they scrape from SERPs and how you present your information. So that's why I made the joke about the listicles. I can't read them anymore because ChatGPT loves bullet points. So SEOs start to create all their content in bullet points. ChatGPT goes there, oh, I have the bullet points here already. I don't need to think myself. I'm just gonna copy and paste on my answer for you. But yeah, that's my view for now. It might change tomorrow. It might not change. And annoyingly, SEO is baked on data, and we don't have data for those tools. We don't have Google Search Console, Google Analytics for ChatGPT. We don't have a dashboard that show us how many times our brands are showing and the results, how many impressions, how many clicks. And they do a very poor job in adding the referrer and the URLs on the citations. So we not even that we have visibility. So is a trick moment to everyone in the tech world, mostly SEOs, because this fell in our laps. Like, oh yeah, LLMs, they're talking about search is SEO issue, which is really isn't. Is everyone's issue, but SEOs just took the responsibility by default, which I don't know if I agree with.
Okay, very nuanced view here. I'd like to tap into one thing that I think is not enough talked about because a lot of like posts on LinkedIn and publications, blog posts is about how to like be more visible and how to do this and that to become a citation or to become mentioned in AI search. What I'd like to understand more is, do you think that people will search differently? So, with the rise of ChatGPT and with the rise of AI overviews, and then probably the continuous rollout of AI mode, do you think the search behavior itself by people, we can also differentiate, obviously, between consumers and like business users or professional users, but do you think people will search differently?
100%. I can use myself as an example. And also there are, I think, Rand Fishkin, was him? Or some of these big dudes shared a very interesting report saying that after ChatGPT was launched or started to be used across the masses, the number of searches in Google actually increased and not decreased. And this is true because I myself use ChatGPT for research. So I go there and say, oh, I want to buy a new backpack to commute to London. And then it gives me some examples of some brands. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like this style, etc. What do you think? And then again, give me some examples. I get this example and I go to Google, type what I want based on the ChatGPT recommendation, and from there I do my purchase. ChatGPT is an excellent tool for researching and for helping you to understand what you really want, because sometimes you don't know the word of a product or you don't know exactly what you want, but you know you want something. Whereas if you try to do this with Google, nowadays is very difficult because everything is very polluted with SEOs and the past the years doing over optimizations, and it becomes really annoying and cumbersome. So you either end on Reddit or you get your idea from ChatGPT. Now, the biggest difference today is that not a lot of people will trust OpenAI or ChatGPT to make a purchase within the platform. So that's why I believe people are researching with ChatGPT, going to Google with a very exact type of word or long tail search and converting from there. And yes, it will change the user behavior. The queries will be less generic moving forward. I think having a depth of information in your e-commerce or your marketplace on your website will make a lot of difference because people not knowing are becoming smarter when they are searching for something and they don't realize that. They just think, oh, ChatGPT, I'm going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And then when they see they are experts in search in Google without even realizing. So I think this behavior will continue to change. And I am an example myself on how do I use on my day-to-day.
And do you think that people will, like the majority of people, will actually complete purchases in ChatGPT? Because I can imagine someone completing a purchase for, like, let's say 20 pounds, 20 euros, $20, whatever. But what about something that is 200 pounds, euros, dollars? And what about something that is maybe a vacation? So, ChatGPT integrating with booking.com, you searching for the perfect like vacation home in Italy next summer, but then the vacation home is like 300 euros, pounds, dollars a day or a night. 1 week vacation, we're talking 2,000 euros, dollars.
Yeah.
Will people be comfortable doing the decision within the chat without exiting the chat to the page, looking at the product themselves, clicking through, reading, checking reviews, and checking it like in full detail and not in the like synthesized, summarized version that you get in ChatGPT, which can probably be really good, but I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit towards the OpenAI, Stripe, PayPal, Agentic Commerce Protocol integration because it's technically really cool, but will the users actually adopt?
Yes. And and
Clear
there
answer.
I have a very easy explanation to you why. Do you remember the first time you bought something online?
Yes, actually, it was on Amazon. It was a DVD series of Two and a Half Men, which back in the days I was like a big fan. I was like 15 years old, and it was crazy for me. Yeah, this was the first time. Yeah.
So at the time when we bought our first things online, everyone was saying, no one's going to trust this. They're not going to deliver. It's a scam. We need to go to the store. We need to try the clothes. We need to touch the product that we are buying. This 20, 25 years ago. Now we see our parents spending more time in eBay, Amazon, or any other marketplace buying shit online. I'm sorry, buying things online. When they say that is actually is a scam, it's never going to work. So yes, people will buy from these different experiences. It won't be easy and it won't be fast, like it wasn't with Amazon, like it wasn't with the first e-commerce, or when you bought your first 2.5 Men DVD from Amazon, you didn't know that, oh, will this actually arrive? From whom I'm buying this? You
Mm.
didn't know that. But when you got it, and I remember my experience as well, because my first online buy was for a CD of a metalcore band that was very obscure. And like, oh yeah, this is never gonna come. But anyway, it came. I was like, oh, wait a second. Can I actually buy things and stay at home and just wait for it to be delivered? So the whole experience, shopping experience, changes in the past 20 years. So in the next 20 years, it will change even more. So yes, people will buy on ChatGPT, on OpenAI platform, or Claude, or Perplexity, or whatever. They're gonna have their own custom concierge on their phone. They're going to help them to book vacations. This will happen. Now is a matter of time, and is a matter of us adapting as SEOs or marketeers in general, and how do we approach this?
Okay, let's play this a little bit more. I will stay devil's advocate, and you will stay like the OpenAI fanboy. No, just kidding.
Okay.
Just for the sake of this conversation. Um, why will it work? Because if I get your argument, it's basically every innovation that people are skeptical about at first will eventually be mass adopted. Just I'm very oversimplifying, of course. But how is the, let's say, instant checkout experience in ChatGPT different to the instant checkout experience that Meta launched in Facebook and Instagram, which they, spoiler, discontinued this July. So they now, I don't know if it's already like taken out of the apps, but they basically said we are not going to support this anymore, and then at some point in time we will just deactivate it. So there is a precedent that this instant checkout idea is not working. Plus, I'm liking this devil's advocate thing too much. Plus, why is there no instant checkout at Google? Because I mean, Google obviously owns all the SERP. Like they have already introduced Google Shopping at the top. It's a very a prominent thing. It would have been pretty easy for them, right? Just integrating instant checkout, people using Google Pay, whatever. So how is it different?
Excellent points. For the OpenAI fanboy word, I'm joking. Um, but you have you probably you know this, when ChatGPT moved from 4.0 to 5, what happened in the world? Everyone was complaining, "Oh no, you took the personality of my AI and blah blah blah." OpenAI is playing with something really smart, which is building a bespoke entity that knows about you and communicates with you in a way that you think is your friend, you think is as your friend. So the trust that you build with that interface is something really hard to build with Google SERP or even Meta. Because Google SERP, if you do an instant checkout, you actually don't know what you're buying, who you're buying from. But OpenAI play with your psychology in a way that you believe that you're talking to someone, not a bunch of zero and ones, but with someone that actually understands you, that actually knows what you want, your preferences, etc. So the chances for them to be successful are really high. They can screw it up. Of course, everyone can screw it up, but they build a system or a platform that appeal to the masses as something very unique. Meta and Google, they already burned some bridges with people. People, they naturally don't trust them anymore because of several lawsuits and several issues, and the way that Mark Zuckerberg presents himself in the media as well is not very friendly. OpenAI still haven't burned this bridge too much. I can say a few things about Saul Altman, but leave it behind. But the tool itself still is catered for you. So I think it would be easier for them to provide the service that the user will trust because they believe that there's a person on the other side that knows them as they know themselves. Of course, it's a very psychological game. Us as marketeers, I think we are more skeptical on those things, but we are 1% of the mass. We don't represent the population. We don't know the person that is using ChatGPT in the middle of nowhere looking for a solution for something and how they're going to help them. For us, it's more like, yeah, I'm not doing this. But for the normal masses that are not ingrained in this world, is a big opportunity. And I don't even know if OpenAI will be the company to do that. It might be someone else. but it will happen. I think we're going to shift again the way that we interact with products and we search and all everyday life. I mean, come on. You can have a subscription for bread today. You can get bread in your home every day. So you don't even need to go to the bakery anymore. So what's stopping us to move more forward?
Okay, a great analogy. I will get us out of the AI rabbit hole now with a final question for this section.
Yep.
If you think about, like, let's say, I know it's hard to predict, but let's say 2-3 years in the future, will it be basically the same market shares as of today? So Google's still very dominant, and then ChatGPT as runner-up, and then probably Perplexity, and somewhere there Bing, and the rest is rather for professional use cases. So a Claude, for example, for coders or people that like the creativity, so to say, of Claude, and then Grok and the others for like 1% each? Or will it be a ChatGPT Google head-to-head race in terms of especially consumer adoption? What would be your best guess?
I believe Google will remain as a market leader for some years. I think they built a monopoly on the search. Like it or not, it is a monopoly. They have more than 90% of the market share. And I don't think OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity will, at least in the next 3 or 4 years, change this very drastically. I don't even know if this is the goal for these tools. We don't know that. I mean, Perplexity, yes, because it's kind of a search engine. They portray themselves as a search engine or a research engine or whatever you want to call. But Claude is very focused on coding assistance, and OpenAI, ChatGPT is a more generalist. So I don't even know if they really are trying to take the market share from Google. But I don't think they will in the next 3 to 5 years. It might happen. It might, of course, happen because it is how the world moves. But also, we don't know if Google decides to buy them out.
Mm.
Google is such a big corporation. They say, okay, ChatGPT, you annoyed me now. I'm going to buy you out and I'm going to incorporate you into my tools. Or same with Perplexity or Claude. We don't know. Even Meta, they have enough capital to buy all these companies. So we don't know how it's going to be the next move. I guess when they start to hurt the revenue line of those companies, then we're going to see what's going to happen in reality. But right now, Google will remain as a market leader, I guess.
Interesting point of view. Now, coming out of the AI rabbit hole, as promised, I always like to, so because we're already talking for quite some time, a couple of minutes, but time has flown. I always like to, like, let's say, wrap up such interviews with very practical pieces of advice, where people can ideally end the episode and then immediately go implement. And the cool thing is now it's a little bit of like a meta thing here, because I imagined also asking you for advice from like your enterprise SEO history for smaller marketplace sites. And now you are obviously in exactly the setting yourself, because you can draw from your experience and implement it at Lottie. So, what would be like if someone is in a similar situation to Lottie? So, smaller marketplace size, but like building the foundation, etc. What would you say? What would be like your 2 to 3 top pieces of advice, drawing from your enterprise and tech SEO experience?
I think the most important one, and people take it for granted, is really understanding the SERPs and what is being shown in the SERP to your target keywords or target products or whatever. People don't spend enough time looking into the search results. They make assumptions based on crawl data, based on technical details or content depth or whatever, but they don't look at the search results. So go to the search result page for the query that you're trying to rank for and see what Google is showing in that results and try to understand why those pages are being shown. Is because of the content depth. Maybe it's not. Maybe the page has no content. It's just a very good fit for that query. Maybe is user generated content. Maybe are reviews a big part of that vertical. I don't think people spend enough time looking into the search results. So this is the first thing that I would do and that I'm actually doing is trying to understand what Google is actually showing. Second, don't underestimate technical SEO foundations. I guess this can become a second thought when you're trying to grow company, when you try to scale too fast, and you just spit out pages and verticals and category pages without even thinking on the impact on the crawlability, indexation, or your own website power or um, strength to sustain the amount of pages. It's like when you go to the gym, if you put 10 kilos more on each side, you can't hold it anymore. Same thing with your website. If you add too many pages and you're not strong enough, you're not going to hold it anymore and you're going to crumble. So don't take technical SEO for granted. Don't believe on when someone says, oh, yeah, no, yeah, Google can crawl. Yeah, Google can see everything. Really test it. And three, Claude and LLMs are your friend. I think Claude gave us SEO something that we really wanted for a very long time. That is a way of prototyping faster. And is a way of showing to engineers and product managers our idea in an actual prototype. Because we rely a lot on words and theory, which sometimes are hard to translate to certain people that really don't understand SEO. So prototyping fast with Claude, Lovable, or whatever tool you want to use, really important and really accelerates your progress to achieve your goals. So yeah, there are my three main suggestions here.
Awesome. Roberto, this has been a very, very insightful talk. I think we already crossed the hour mark, which is always like a sign for me that we had enough to talk about. And I think we could probably go on for another hour. But yeah, first of all, I want to thank you very much for the very insightful thoughts and the very nuanced thoughts. I'm not quite sure yet if I will continue to call you the OpenAI fanboy. I probably won't. But maybe we should do like an update episode in a year or so to see how things are going then at Lottie, how things are going in terms of consumer adoption of agentic commerce protocol or like instant checkout. I started to end these episodes with a surprise question as I announced at the beginning, so I didn't spoiler the question, but it has proven to be very interesting. So my final question to you is, what is something that we didn't talk about or that I didn't ask that we should have talked about?
Oh wow. Oh well. Okay. I think one thing that I would like the community to do more, and we could talk about more, is how we move away from vanity metrics to commercial metrics as an SEOs. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's a good
something
one.
that, yeah, something that the community should talk more, because SEOs, they need to be held accountable to the commercial results of their jobs as well, because it gives them power of negotiation moving forward. I think SEOs are very underpaid as professionals. because SEO is taken for granted, and also because we did a really poor job in sales ourselves as the revenue-driven channel. So yes, that's something that I think we could have talked more or touched more, and maybe we can talk more in the future.
Okay, so let's do one follow up here. If someone says, "Okay, Roberto, sold," like I will go out now, stay up or like stand up to my worth, and go away vanity metrics. Here you go, commercial impact. How? Like, how can I just start getting a grasp on moving from vanity to commercial?
Learn your data, what people are clicking on the SERP, how are you acquiring the users? Are they really converting? Do you know how the attribution model is in your company? Is first click, last click? Are you actually losing revenue on your channel because you don't know the answer for this? So learn your data and connect the dots. I think we have a plethora of tools and data available to all of us to actually track revenue impact for any channel. So yeah, don't go to your boss and say, "Oh, you know what? I want to track revenue because I want to make more money." And then he's gonna say, "Okay, how much money did you make in the past quarter?" And they say, uh, I don't know." So learn your data before you have this conversation.
Awesome. This was pretty good. You see why I started asking this question. It's always great to hear something unexpected coming up. I think it gives a sense of I should probably start integrating that people should stay until the end because then we will have a surprise question. So maybe it will bring even more viewers until the end. But Roberto, thanks so much. I really value everything you shared with me and obviously also with viewers and listeners. If people liked what they heard from you, what's the best place to follow along?
LinkedIn is probably the only social media that I actually used. Everything else is I don't do it. So LinkedIn is the way to talk to me and to reach me out.
Very cool. And probably also if there will be any job openings from Lottie, like on the marketing or organic growth SEO side, people will maybe, I don't know, UK base, maybe also remotely, they will probably hear first on your profile or on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, right?
exactly. And we do have some roles open for software engineers, hybrid and remote.
Awesome.
So yeah, people should take a look at us. And if they have any questions about Lottie, I'm happy to jump in a call and talk about it.
Very cool. So then, thanks so much again. I wish you great success in the new tenure at Lottie, and also a lot of success, obviously, for Lottie as a company. And yeah, I can't wait for the feedback to this episode. And thanks so much again.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.